Hello YouTubers and welcome to my channel. Today I will be making this delicious dish. It is an eggplant casserole. If you do love eggplants like I do, you will absolutely fall in love with this dish. This is an Iraqi, traditional Iraqi dish. It's called Moussaka, or it goes by Tepsi Batinjan. We normally deep fry everything for this dish, but do not be afraid. I figured out a way to make it a healthy way, and I will not be using any oil at all. So let's get started, and I will show you what you will need for this recipe. Right here I have 2.5 pounds of meat, sliced and diced to this size, and you could use less meat, it's up to you. And I have 2 large onions chopped, 3 cloves of garlic chopped, 2 large bell peppers, same thing, chopped. And for the spices, I have 1 teaspoon of curry, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and this is optional. I used 1 large tablespoon of red pepper. I love spicy food, so if you don't like spicy food, you could remove that. For the next step, this is for the sauce. We will need 3.5 cups of water, 1 can of tomato paste. This is the size that I used, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. And this is dried lime. What I did, I cracked the lime, removed the seeds, and then I crushed it, and it looks like that. I used 1 teaspoon. And 1 tablespoon of dried mint, and 1 teaspoon of salt, and 3 tablespoons of pomegranate syrup. And it looks like this. I also have some Italian parsley for, this is optional of course, just for garnish. And then I have the tomatoes sliced in that way, and then the eggplants. I will show you what I did to roast them. We're gonna need 2 large eggplants and 2 large tomatoes. So I'll show you the step to roast it. This is where I used very little spray oil, and that was the only oil that I used. So I sliced my eggplants, put them on a baking sheet, and I used a very light layer of the spray oil, and that was it. And I'm going to put them in the oven to roast them. And I will leave the eggplants, and I will move on to the next step. In a saucepan, no oil used here. I will add the onion and the garlic, and we will not be using any oil. Like I said, this is the healthier way of making it. And I'm just gonna saute the onion and the garlic. And this is what we want to look for, kind of like that. It doesn't have to be, you know, perfect. And I will be adding the meat. And I did not use any oil at all. The meat has very, very little fat in it, and that's going to make up for the oil that we're not using. Because traditionally, like I said, this dish is deep fried. Everything is deep fried, and I wanted to make a healthier version of this dish that will taste the same, and it will taste way better. I promise you it will taste way better. I try to figure out ways to make food without adding oil, so this worked out and it came out really good, and I hope you try it too. So once the meat is brown, we're ready to add the bell peppers. We're gonna stir a little. Just keep it on high heat. And the next step will be adding all the spices all at one time. And give it a mix. And continue to keep the heat on high until the meat is cooked. And if you look at this, it's filled with that juice. I'm going to pick up all this meat with the juice, all that flavor. We absolutely need that. I'm going to move it into that Dutch oven because I will need to put it in the oven. So you will need like an oven-safe dish, like something deep, either a Pyrex or Dutch oven, anything that you have that's deep enough. So I'm going to turn off the heat at this point and pick up all this meat and start assembling my first layer. And I moved all the meat and the juice. We're going to move on to the sauce. So I started off with adding the tomato paste, the 1 can of tomato paste, and I will be adding some water. And I'm going to add a little more because we need a little more water. So I will be using 3.5 cups of water for this recipe. And just mix the tomato paste with the water. And we're going to turn up the heat on high heat. I do want to get the sauce to get a little thicker before I pour the sauce on top of the meat and then all the other vegetables. So this is what it looks like. After a few minutes, I will be adding the lemon juice. Then I'm adding the pomegranate syrup. And then the mint and the dried lime powder. And we're just going to give it a quick mix, and I just kind of need it to get a little thicker before I turn off the heat. And it looks like it's ready. I'm gonna add my 1 teaspoon of salt, and I should be done after that. There we go. And I'm going to turn off the heat and move on to the next step. So right here I have the tomatoes and the eggplants. I pulled them out of the oven and I assembled them on top of the meat in this way. You could put them any way you like, it does not matter. And I'm going to add the tomatoes, same thing, and it looks like that. So we're doing a layer of eggplants, then a layer of tomatoes. And now I'm going to add the sauce. I'm just gonna take the saucepan, pour all that sauce on top of the layers that I assembled here. And at this point, I'm going to put the lid on top and put it in the oven for an additional 2 hours. On 350 degrees, of course. I forgot to mention that. And this is after 2 hours. I will show you. Oh, the smell is amazing already. I love the smell and the looks, and it is ready. Here we go. We have the eggplant casserole. I mean, this is a must. You have to try this recipe. Like I said, it is very healthy, really easy to make, and it is delicious. I'm gonna add some parsley on top, and that's what it looks like. And it looks a bit dry here, but there is a lot of juice underneath. I will show you in a second. I'm gonna tilt this. There we go. And I took some already, put it on top of white rice that I made, or you could eat it by itself without any rice. It's totally up to you. Either way, it is delicious. I hope you enjoyed watching my video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.